Greetings, everybody. Patrick here, 8 Questions with, and welcome to the last show of the week. Uh, and we've had a really fun week for sure. That's for sure. We had two great shows yesterday. Our good friend Michael, who wrote Waffles, came on in, and then we had uh, a wonderful discussion with Zili Avropoulos. Ooh, and that was last night, and that was a fantastic show as well. Thank you guys for your support for that. Um, and of course, we talked to a young actress, Tiffany. S- so, Boy, if someone ever could make a translator, universal translator for last names, I would buy it. I'd be first in line. Our friend Tiffany was here on Tuesday, and we had, just like I said, we've had a great week, and tonight is no different, as we are welcoming in prolific writer and director Jason Bourque. Jason is easily one of the most talented directors that we've had on the show for sure. That and he's also a screenwriter as well. Uh, hey Jim, how are you? Oh, thank you, man. Thanks. Hopefully you'll be able to watch it. Hey Anthony, how are you? How are you? Um, hopefully you'll stick around. This one's going to be a corker, that's for sure. Another one. Jason Bourque is a prolific screenwriter and director from Canada. Not only has he done several films, I actually own a few of his films that he has made, um, including Drone, which stars Sean Bean. I own that one. But he also is a prolific. He can write a great action film, but he also can write great romantic comedies, and he's done 10 Hallmark films as of today, uh, as of as of right now. And he is very much in demand. He is currently making his next two films will be horror films, and we'll be talking to him a little bit about those, because I looked at one called Colonizer. And I saw the cast for it, so I'm like, man, we got to talk just a tiny bit about that. I realize we won't be able to get a lot out of that, since it's just getting ready to ramp up to go. Uh, but if you look on the IMDb page, you'll see who's going to be in the movie, and that's Kim Coates. And huge Kim Coates fan. I think he's a fantastic actor. Uh, he can swing both ways in terms of playing a great villain. If you ever seen him on Open Range with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall, he played the gunfighter who killed their friend, and then Kevin Costner returned the favor. um, uh, and he also played a good guy, interesting character in the movie Silent Hill. So anything that Kim Coates does, I'm interested in. Hell, anything that Jason Bourque does, I'm interested in. Canada has some amazing talent, Jim, amazing talent. Um, I think one of their actresses who we've talked to on the show here, I believe that next year will break her out in the public eye, and that will be Elizabeth Chamberlain. I really believe that she will pop. Somebody's going to see her and make her. They're gonna they're gonna cast her. They're gonna cast her in a big project. That's right. He was on Sons of Anarchy too. That's right. Yep. Yeah. They he. Whew, I think one of the storylines was that his daughter got killed by a rival organization, and so he returned the favor. Uh, Jackson, the boys went over there and returned the favor. Yeah, he's really good. He's really good. I saw him in a movie. The one movie he did, I thought he deserved better in the movie. That was Officer Down. I liked him in that movie. I liked him, but I didn't really like him in that one. Um, uh, yeah, that was an interesting. That was interesting. Yes, that's right. He's one of the few characters that lived at the end. Yeah, they killed a lot of people in that. They killed a lot. Yeah. I only have to have. I'm still hunting for season 6 of the Sons of Anarchy, and then I'll try to watch it all the way through. I just don't like watching TV shows where glorify the violence. That glorify the criminal. I got it because it was next to nothing. I paid a quarter a piece for the seasons that I got. That's why I picked it up. I still need season 6. That's the only reason I just, like if I grab a show like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or Sons of Anarchy, I'm only getting them because I'm getting them for a quarter a piece, and I'll buy anything for a quarter a piece. Uh, yeah, great cast on Sons of Anarchy though. You had Ron Perlman in there, Mark Boone Jr., Kim Coates as mentioned. Uh, um, of course, Raleigh Beckett was in it. Charles Hunnam. Sure. Uh, I think he did that show after he. I think he did that show after he had done Pacific Rim. Then he went to Sons of Anarchy. What other shows do I have or sort of like that? I got a single season of The Shield. Um, let's see. Be on the lookout for Frisky Dingo. I am looking for that. I am looking for that. I am looking for that. But we're going to be looking out for Jason because we're going to be talking Christmas movies a lot here, along with his action and his thrillers and his horror films. But I knew Jason basically through the movies that he made for Hallmark, and so I've always wanted to talk to a really prolific director of Hallmark movies because I love them and I think they're really interesting. And I want to see what kind of challenges that a director, even as one as skilled as Jason is, and he is very skilled. Like I said, he's without exaggeration, he's probably definitely one of the top 10 directors I've interviewed on this show. And the 500 episodes that we have done, he's definitely going to be one of the top 10. I mean, the guy has skills. His resume is just bonkers. Not only has he directed over 60 projects, but he's written over 35. So he's very prolific, and he's a relatively young man too. He just I wonder if he knows how to take a day off. We're definitely going to ask him about that. I just got a little note too in my calendar coming up here. I'm going to let you know. So we will be breaking records next week. We're going to be next month. We're going to be doing something that I have not done yet on this show. Um, and I was mentioned. Someone has sent it to me. The actress that I had talked to sent me some information, and so for us to talk about. And I'm going to be talking to a transgendered actress. That will be my first, and I'm looking forward to it. To tell you the truth, because I have questions. I always have questions. Um, so we will be talking to this young lady, and she'll be here on the first week of December. Um, and we had to reschedule her. Her name is Chase, and yeah, she sent me information saying that she is a transgendered, fully transgendered, by the way, full transgender. She let me know that too. Uh, so we're going to be talking to her about working as an actress in Hollywood as a fully transgendered working actress. Uh, hey, there he is. All right, all right. What's going on, Joe? How are you? How are you? I'm glad we're going to be here. You're here. We're going to be talking to Jason Bourque. Will be here momentarily. We just got done mentioning Elizabeth Chamberlain. We think that she's going to break next year. Um, we talked about our great week that we had, fantastic week. But let me tell you what's going on the last week of November, because we only have 2 shows next week. We only have 2. We're not going to be on Thanksgiving Day because nobody else will be either. Um, oh, thank you, Jim. Yeah, Waffles is awesome. Waffles is the man. Got a great channel. Got a great channel name. I mean, seriously, if he doesn't have the best channel name ever, um, I'm glad you're doing well, Joe. Yeah, I agree. Now, are you guys going to be back next Tuesday? Now, Jim, are you going to be back next Tuesday? hopefully you guys will be back next Wednesday. We have we have well, we have two interviews next week and the ISC show. The ISC show on Sunday the 24th. We will be we'll be here on my channel. I'll be hosting the show on Sunday, and we'll be watching A Perfect Day. We'll be watching and discussing and doing a deep dive on A Perfect Day with Benicio del Toro. If you want to know more about that show, just click on it. It's already up and running. You can click on it. There's a trailer to the movie. Already got the approval, already got the thumbs up approval from Mary Wilson that I picked a good one, because I worry about those things, right? I'm always worried, like, not that I think that not that because there's any bad ISC movies, but I just don't want to be the one, I don't, because we have not reviewed a bad movie. We have reviewed one movie that got mislabeled as a horror film, and it wasn't. And we got one film that was like this. Like, people are like, it could go either way. It all depends who's watching it. But we have done 37 other shows where it has been thumbs up, that we have really liked this movie and what have you. And of course, I'm chasing after Ben, because Ben picked out Late Night with the Devil. So you feel the pressure right there to coming back with a big hitter. Like, okay, that's a great ISC midnight film. That is a great one. I personally think A Perfect Day, though it's different, it's not a supernatural horror, but in terms of quality, in terms of filmmaking and acting, easily matches it. You guys, A Perfect Day is an amazing movie. It's an amazing film. I'm glad to be able to talk to you guys about it. We're all going to be able to talk to you about it, because nobody else knows about it. It came out about 9 years ago, but no one knows about it. But I couldn't. When I was picking it, I'm going like, I think this is a timely film, which is why I picked it. I think it's going to be very timely. Like, yeah, even though that happened like years ago, but they say everything comes round. What goes around comes round, and I think that's really why I picked it. Let's see. Our next show is going to be on December 3rd. I'm actually going to be reaching out to you soon to be a guest. Me, I'll be ready. Oh, I'll be ready. So that means the 24. That means the 26th. You guys are going to be off one more day. You're going to be off one more week. We might have to have you guys come out here and hang out with me on the 26th. I'll have to grab you and Kenny. You can come out and hang out with me as we talk to Ann Myrna. Because we got to keep you guys sort of like in motion. We can't just have you guys just sitting there. I like the way you guys are interviewing other YouTubers. I really I think that's really cool. I think that's a real good niche. It's a really good place to be. There's so many great people in our community, and talking movies with them, and it's a great thing. All right. Well, our guest is here. Director Jason Bourque will be here, and we'll be discussing all sorts of goodness, starting about right now. Here we go. Greetings, sir.
Hello. Hey, Patrick.
Hello. How are you, Jason?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
It is. It is. Now I got to tell people this is not our first dance. You and I have met before when I started doing 8 questions when I was doing it on my blog.
Yes.
That's right.
Good memory. How long ago was that?
Years. But I've been chasing you ever since then. It's like, let me go see if I can get them. Let me go see. But every time I've actually like gone out to see if you're available, like I've always go to your IMDb page, and there's always something going on. And we're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. He's not going to be available because he's too busy.
The hustle never stops.
No.
That's the bottom line. I find the older I get, the more I gotta. Man, it's just nose to the grindstone. I just keep at it. Usually, as again, directing, but as well as writing and producing in the indie trenches.
Yeah, but you know what? You are not I would describe as you're a relatively young person.
Aw,
I mean, I
you're
think
so sweet.
I think your motor is rather. I think people, way younger than you look at you and they must get tired of watching because you're just lapping everybody.
Aw.
Um,
Oh, thank you.
36 63 movies directed, 33 screenplays. I own some of your movies.
Oh, no
I own,
way.
yeah, I do. I own some of your films. I was looking at that going like, I know that one. I got that one. I got that one. Um, so like I mentioned to Jim and the people here, I definitely feel for this for what I'm at. I think you're definitely one of the 10 best directors I'm talking to so far.
Well, thank you. Oh, thanks
Yeah.
so much. I try hard to please. I love the audience, and I'm just very very aware of the audience, and thank you so much for actually like watching my movies.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, like, well, this from the first time you and I talked, or maybe not. Maybe I thought maybe, but I think I mentioned to you that I'm a Hallmark guy. I
Mhm.
love Hallmark movies. I think they're great. I think that the people making them, I think they're highly skilled. That's what the general public doesn't get.
Yeah.
I get, I hear a lot of people making fun of the movies and whatnot, and also Hallmark movie and this and that. What they don't understand is how freaking skilled you have to be to make them. A lot of directors, they would be intimidated by the scheduling and the way it's run, the turnaround, the editing. I think a lot of directors would once they're told that this is how it's going to work, I think a lot of directors would turn around and just go the other way because it's so labor intensive.
Oh, totally. Now, Patrick, do you have a background in actual film production? Because you know a ton about it.
No,
Um,
actually, I actually had 10 years of live music experience.
okay.
So I did music concerts, and when I
Oh, nice.
started doing when I started doing the interviews, when I started talking to people in the movie business, I realized how much they're alike. So I wasn't totally lost at sea.
Mhm.
But ever since I've been doing it more and more, this is the good thing about doing interviews with such people such as yourself is you guys make me look a lot smarter than I am. So it's like now I can sit here and like I think I can hold my own here. I'm going to do my best.
Well, you get it. You get what we're up against. These
Mm,
Hallmark movies, we have 15 days prep. So when I get hired on, and much like an actor, sometimes I have to pitch myself, and I compete against a whole lot of other awesome, talented directors within that pool of Hallmark talent. But yeah, 15 days prep, and then we shoot them in like 14 to 15 days. And then the editing, I sometimes have about a week.
yeah,
Yeah, luckily the editor starts working with me on day one. So I can, and again, a lot of these people, I have to be very close with them creatively, and I have to be in touch with them constantly. So as I shoot the scenes, the editor's actually cutting them. So by the time I actually finish my shooting of it, we get it in the can. Usually 3 days after that, I actually see a director's, or sorry, I see the editor's cut, and it's basically an assembly, but the assistant editor adds in sound effects and stock shots, and you name it. So hey, it's like it's. I love working with editors, and luckily there's some that again are just insanely talented, and we just have to be on the ball, like every one of us working on these movies. A lot of setups. We usually average about 40 setups a day. Each setup is about 15 minutes, and like I said, usually 14 to 15 days. So it's quite the schedule. But within that sandbox, as you know, I really think beautiful things can be pulled off.
oh,
I'm very
definitely.
happy with my last one. I don't know if you saw it, A Reason for the Season.
Uh,
Um,
I would love to somehow get a hold of Cineverse or whoever's distributing it to
mhm.
get the movies. I have not been able to do that as of yet, so I don't really get anything sent to me in terms of that. Um, I have to hope, and I have to hope and pray that it comes out on physical media. And that's one thing Hallmark is still doing. Bless their
Yep.
soul, is that they still believe in physical media. even though they just now got their streaming service running, but they still put out their movies for their fans, because a lot of their fans are a much older audience, and they're not really into the streaming. They're into the physical media aspect of it. So Hallmark has been really diligent about that. Now, will that stay? I don't know, because part of it is like there's less places for movies to be sold from.
Hmm.
So unless they're buying them strictly from Hallmark themselves, I'm not sure what the future of physical is for Hallmark. But
It's
I do know as of today, though, they are still selling them physically.
I actually see like the ads come out, or there could be fans, because that Hallmarky base is so incredible with the love, and they post like a world record Christmas came out on DVD, and so I see a picture of someone kind of holding up that DVD, and there's not too many like that left. It is amazing how Hallmark has that fan base, and you're right, it's an older fan base. They love those DVDs, and they collect them, which
Yeah,
is fantastic. Yeah, the streamer situation, I it's interesting. I did one that actually premiered first on a streamer on Hallmark, and then it came out. It didn't, it was totally fine. Didn't affect the ratings or anything like that. In fact, I think it kind of helped. Um, a lot of the audience, obviously, they still have cable, which is great. I have a lot of friends that they're totally off cable. But it's nice that Hallmark, I think it's always within the networks. It's always within like the top 4 networks. And every time we do a premiere, it's still somehow hitting that, like, 1 to 2 million viewership, which is fantastic. And again, it just has a lot of love, a lot of, we trend every time on Twitter. We have, on X, every time one of these things comes out, and the live tweeting that goes on is just, it's phenomenal to see. Again, it's such an incredible foundation of fans out there.
I think what really floored me, when I was thinking about it, is like, I know another director, and proud to know her. She just now finished her third one for Hallmark.
Mhm.
Um, uh, Crystal Lowe has
Oh yeah.
yeah, and love her to death.
Oh, she's
So
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 talented.
proud, so proud of her. She's so
Mhm.
cool.
Yep.
And then, what really blows me away was the fact that she took a picture of herself on set, and it was like, let's say it was like the first week of February.
Yep.
I'm working, and then you turn around, and then she says, "Okay, we got our premiere date. It's March. It's like March 20th."
Yeah. Yeah. It's
My
crazy.
mind is blown, because I'm going like, you're still filming it, but you already got a date to show it, and it's only like a little more than a month out.
Yeah. Our
Mind
holiday
you,
story was like that. It was insane. We ended up shooting that one in August, September. We finished it off so quickly. Yeah, it was early September. We finished it. I think first 2 weeks of September, and that came out like November. I think it was like 2nd. It's like you finish. That's by far the quickest I've ever dealt with, and I don't think it impacted. Like, it was still, the number one show that night, and uh, wonderful reviews. It was with Nikki Deloche, and I've worked with Nikki before, and she's an insane talent. Warren Christie was the male lead. It was a little complicated. I had to be the Christopher Nolan of freaking Hallmark movies. It was like parallel timelines. It's the parents telling a story how they met, interwoven throughout, and I had to come up with a lot of transitions, lots to track, because it's all with the same actors, 2 different stories, and they're 10 years apart. So it's not like, they get all gray like you and I. It's
right?
like, it's very subtle when you deal with 10 years difference. um but yeah, we found a way of doing it, but again, sometimes I get stuck with some that are very complex. I
Yeah,
did another one that was like a sliding doors Hallmark movie, and she misses the plane, and it branches off into 2 parallel timelines. One is where she goes back to meet the parents of her parents in the small town, and the other one, because she missed the plane, she ends up meeting this young guy who invites her to a Christmas party. And again, and split screens, lots of fun stuff. And I find Hallmark, especially now with the audience, at one point we know they were almost becoming a bit of a Saturday Night Live was taking a lot of cracks at them and so forth about the small town girl kind of, moves to the big
Right.
city, gives up her career, comes back, falls in love with her Hollywood sweetheart. Now I find they're dealing a lot more with diversity, a lot more with concepts that are more outside the box. So
It-
I think it helps keep the audience going. That's for sure.
well, they definitely know about their A-list, because not every director that I've seen that has done a Hallmark movie, whether it been just for the fact that they still haven't got the experience, or even some experienced operators that I've seen that done Hallmark movies, they're not being handed a story like that. You are, because they know, like your movies that you've done, they have looks like they have reached out to you more and more to come work, do more films. They trust you could handle a feature film plot line and a 15-day shoot.
Yeah.
That's got to make you feel good as a directing professional. You must be sitting there going like, and you're allowed to, by God.
I feel blessed to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's interesting. I come at my philosophy with doing one of these movies is I'm making a movie that is going to be shown on Hallmark, but I'm not making a Hallmark movie. So everything I've learned from my indie features and how sci-fi channel movies, all of that knowledge comes in handy. So I literally go into these, I read the script, and I don't think too much of again, Hallmark at all, to be honest. It's very much on how can I just make the best movie I can make. And yes, it's within that timeline, but it's also my job to take my keys, my HODs, the heads of these departments, and how can I keep them motivated? How can I work with these actors like Nikki DeLoche, who's amazing, and they know they can bring ideas to the table? How can we elevate it? And I truly think that teamwork philosophy has paid off. And I'm happy to say that I know that the ones I've been doing with Hallmark, they do stand out, and it is because I put my heart and soul into these, and so does the team. So
Mhm.
yeah, again, blessed that I can have people that are they take their craft obviously very seriously,
I
but
don't
it's
think the
the
general public
complexity
knows
is
them.
amazing.
I don't think the general, even Hallmark fans, I don't think they understand. They like to watch what they watch,
Hmm.
and it's funny because they do. They like to watch what they watch. They talk about the different actors and whatnot, but I don't really think they understand the complexity of the film and what it takes to make these films for that audience. Like, they took a lot of time to make that movie for you,
Hmm.
and to put it out there, just as much as anything, and even more so because they know that they're making this movie aimed toward you. Most movies, it's just like it's a crapshoot. It's like, okay, I made a horror movie. I'm going to throw a mud and hope I hit the right horror community, because there's so
Yeah.
many different genres. Hallmark is just like one genre. It's like it's Hallmark, and so it's but it takes, to me, it just puts more pressure on you to get it right, because the crowd is going to be a little bit more demanding.
I
And
think so.
no,
It's yeah, a good way to look at it. I find with Hallmark, because their standards are quite high,
yeah,
and it does impact because there's a lot of weight on these leads. I find, especially the female leads, to be honest, where
yeah,
they feel such a need to deliver to this audience that they love so much, and they know they do whatever they can. So, and a lot of them also hit the conventions, and again, they love that fan base. But we have a lot of discussion with those leads on like I said, like truly, how can we elevate this material, and how can we ultimately give the world a big hug? Like when these things come out, we do want people to laugh, to cry, and to walk away ultimately at the end with a big smile on their face. And
it's
there is that pressure, as you said. It's like I have that pressure on me. My standards are very high. I'm very competitive with these as well. Like I just really want each one. I'm only as good as my last project. Let's put it that way.
okay.
To give
Okay.
an example, like this last one that we just did, A Reason for the Season. I lucked out because I had the most amazing special effects team, and not too much gets me excited. I mean, I'm very laid back, but we had like the best snow. We had the fish ice, the snow blankets. We had like the fog machines for the exhaust, because a lot of people don't realize we shoot these in like July and August and September. So every time you think you're looking at this beautiful winter wonderland, I'm
It's
shooting this
95
direction.
degrees.
Yeah, I turn like a few inches this way, and it could be like a green field in a park. And we've literally created so much special effects and CGI to create the frame, with what we're seeing in this little tiny window. It's pretty phenomenal. Like when we do location scouts, we could have this amazing gazebo in this big giant green park, and it's like how can we create a winter wonderland around that gazebo?
And do it in 15 days.
Yes, I know. It's like it's. I tell you, Patrick, it's controlled chaos. I mean, it's like you have like ants. Everyone's just going around crazy, but they all have like a plan in place, and everyone's kind of doing their job very quickly in order to move that fast. And all that being said, as we know, comes down to story. The story has to rock. The acting has to be awesome. And one thing I got to do within all that chaos is protect for the acting, protect for the performance, because that's where you could lose the audience. If they feel like someone's phoning it in, oh boy, they know. And,
Yeah.
as quickly as they give so much love and support, the Hallmark audience can also turn on you if they feel like, you're just cashing in a paycheck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me go to the chat here. I want to say hi to our good friend John and Stephen. Stephen came in here. Hi, Stephen. How are you? John is here from Doomsday Crypt. Tom, thank you. Thank you for your kind words yesterday. It says here, it's like HBO gave green light to daring new directors in the mid 80s. That's right. The Green Light Project. That's right. They Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I hear they're going to be doing. They're picking that up again. They're going to redo that.
Nice.
See,
I love Feast. They're Feast and Greenlight. They did those low budget creature features.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Now, it's something interesting because I was going to ask you this. Like, there's one question with the speed of what was going on, is every crew, are they like a crew and they stay together? Let's say it's like an 80-person crew. Does Hallmark keep that crew together? And then like as soon as they're done with your project, there's another movie coming up there. Maybe you're wrapping up in Edmonton and they're gonna have another movie going in Calgary. Does that same crew work as a unit and move from one project to the other, or is that all different crew from all over for each movie?
Based on schedules, and we're all contractors. Some companies try to maintain the crew and hold on to them, and almost treat it like a TV series. If they have like 3 Hallmarks back to back, they will do their best to maintain that crew. But ultimately, because of the creative relationships involved, the director still has a lot of say in the director of photography. So, if I'm working with the director of photography, ideally it's someone I've worked with before, and then we got that secondhand language is all dialed in, and they know what I like, and vice versa. Same with a production designer is key. I know in order to deliver, obviously, I want to, like a Martin Scorsese, it's like he sometimes works with the same production designers. I would totally do the same. Same with cast, supporting roles. I find I like to work with the same actors sometimes. I also like to go outside the box and bring in new talent. But there's a lot to be said about shooting that quick and maintaining the same crew. All that being said, my last one was up in Kelowna, BC, and a lot of people I've worked with before, but also a lot of new faces. So, it's.
I was just wondering that because to me it seems like it's almost like a racing team. It's like you have to have the same people doing the same job every time. I can't imagine the kind of pressure it must take. Like here you are, you wrap up one movie, you say goodbye to that crew, and then you go into the next one, and then here comes another whole fresh crew coming in from all over the place, and now you got to get them to home together and to do the same thing all over again.
Totally.
See what I mean about you being a top talent? This is why Hallmark is coming back to you more and more, because they recognize you can get it done. It just makes me just like it even impresses me more knowing that's what they expect from their directors. and
Hmm.
that's what they're getting. But let's talk a little bit about that, about the acting part of it, because that's the other thing I really want to touch base with you too.
Hmm.
Now I know Hallmark, and you're right about the people felt phoning it in. Oh my gosh, you're right. I've
Yeah.
only seen it one time. I've only seen it one time, but I didn't see it was I didn't think it was so much phoning it in. I thought it was grief.
Hmm.
I I thought the actress was really hurting
Yeah.
because she just lost a family member,
Yes.
and it really I think it showed in her performance. No names, you know who I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only time I ever saw any Hallmark actor just sort of like, and you could just see it all on her face, like she didn't want to be there, even though it was a beautiful country, um, and you just see it in her face, and but how hard is it to maintain that when a lot of the actors are basically going through, 'cause these are basically going through the same plot line with slightly different angles. How do you, as a director, how do you maintain that elevation with your experienced stars?
Yeah, good question. It's funny what actors each have their own different styles. So I've worked with some actors that even though they're going through a lot, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a sometimes, God forbid, like they just lost a best friend. I've dealt with a couple actors where that's happened. I was working with Barbara Niven, and unfortunately, Treat Williams passed away while we were shooting. They were best friends, and um, again, it's sort of out of respect. We took the afternoon off. But it's interesting with that type of stuff. Like I said, some can turn it on and off like a faucet. Other actors, like when I did my movie Blackfly, it was a deep, dark thriller. I'm looking for one actor, couldn't find him, and he's off sticking his hands in like a snowbank because he totally wanted to feel it, or he's telling the other actor, "Hey, listen, I just want to feel it when I'm getting kicked. So just don't hold back. Just, really kick me when I'm down on the ground." And I got to, again, track all that. And sometimes for safety reasons, ask these younger actors to pull back a bit. So like I said, they all have different ways of dealing with it. The best thing that I can do is to have the best communication. And it's always about trust. So right before I'm going to start a movie, I talk to my leads and I call it my partner in crime talk. I want to know if they're one take, are they two takes, are there three takes? I want to know if I'm doing an emotional scene, do they want to be first up? And sometimes it's more of a directing thing. You have your wide establisher and you work your way into the close-ups. If I'm doing an emotional scene, some actors may want to do their big close-up first and get that out of the way, because when they tear up, especially if they're dealing with maybe their own baggage, they might just let it go, and the tears are going to come, and I don't want to wait on that. I'm going to get that out of the way first, also out of respect to their process.
Right.
So it's like I said, for me, it's about trust, it's communication, and I ask my actors a lot of questions. I truly want that trust to be there, and to ask, what can we do to make this work. So that's the main thing.
Yeah,
A lot of my kids, they do that too.
see, I think, to me, it's funny it's funny. I just saw this today on another group. They're talking about, acting teachers. They're going like, some people, when they look at somebody, an actor with maybe like a half a dozen credits or 12 credits, they're going like, who are you to be able to teach anybody anything? And I always said, well, you know what? It's sort of like to me, I feel the best acting teachers are not necessarily the ones in front of the camera, but the ones that are walking the stage, the
Mhm.
theater. And I'm just thinking to myself, for Hallmark movies, that's sort of like the same thing. It's your actors are doing the same thing. They're comfortable doing it, but it's safe. It's safe, but yet how do you make it challenging? How do you sit there and say, listen, I know we saved the local Christmas pageant 12 times before. How can we make it interesting the 13th time?
You know
Um,
what we do? Yeah, so it's interesting. So we actually don't get a read through of the script with the cast, unless I do it on my own, and it's a budgetary thing where it's like the production very rarely will pay for all of those actors to sit around a boardroom table and actually read through the script. So a lot of the beats, I'm looking at any opportunity to read through the scene with the actors and find those opportunities, because sometimes those beats, we figure them out on the day. So we could be in a rehearsal, it's like, wait a second, this isn't working as good as it should. How can we make this better? And usually what I like to do is on the heads and tails of scenes, it's doing the ad libs. It's like, so some of those lines coming out aren't necessarily in the script, because these actors can be so good, and to make it feel so natural. I get sometimes what's on the page, because I'm still ultimately working for Hallmark, but they do like those real moments that just sort of come up, and they
Mhm.
come up out of play. So I keep a very playful set, by the way. A lot of jokes, a lot of fun. We move quickly, and it's a very good vibe, because I need that creative atmosphere and environment. So these actors have the trust, and they know that they can also bring those little ad libs to it. So if I have, like, it could be father, son, and daughter, and they're walking in the door of the house, it might not be scripted, but I'll have them hum like a public domain, or even be singing a public domain Christmas song. Or, there's moments where those ad libs, can develop, because we just have like a little beat that doesn't work, especially with kids. With a world record, Chris, we hooked on this thing, and I was working with an autistic actor. Hey, how can let's work on the fact that it's like, you always tell bad jokes. So even though his back is to us and he's walking out of the room, he's always starting just a really silly bad joke, and they always made the cut. And it was just those little character things that we discovered, not in the script, but just by playing, and they know that the trust is there, that they can make suggestions. Now,
Not
I tell
not
you,
not
yeah,
not only the trust there with your actors, but the trust there with the suits.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I know that's part of it too, because I got to keep it on track. That's all part of it too, because ultimately we know the Hallmark sandbox can seem a little constrained, but like I
Mm.
said, beautiful things can happen within that sandbox. And I've been lucky enough to have scripts and a collaboration with the actors that I truly feel like we're getting touching moments. I truly love it when I can have that audience cry, you know,
I've
and to get a
guilty.
belly laugh, you
I've
know.
had I've shed my fair share of tears. No kidding. Uh, the uh, the Signed Seal Delivered Christmas movie they made
Oh yeah,
with
yeah, with
Rob,
Crystal.
lose it every single time, every time.
I love
Yep.
it.
Rob Estes and Eric Mavis in there, and he finds out that Scott Rob is not, not he's just not the suit from the post office, but he's somebody
Yeah,
else. Lose it every time. So it's
yeah,
just like, yeah, it's a beautiful moment and it's beautifully acted.
yeah.
Um, no. And I love the fact too. And how did you get onto before we are gonna talk some horror films, folks. We will get there, but I'm just a Hallmark guy, so I want to ask some Hallmark questions. How did they find you? How did you get found? Was it through your other films that you had done? I know you had done some Lifetime films, and then you'd done some independent horror films, the sci-fi movies. And I'm a huge sci-fi guy, so I love those disaster movies, nature of muck movies, or creature features. How
Mhm.
did Hallmark get and you come together to work?
It's funny. I was focused. It comes in waves. I was focused on doing sci-fi channel movies for the longest time, and it was back when they had a slot. It was Saturday night, and that's
Dangerous on TV.
oh, for me, I loved it. I grew up on sci-fi and creature features, and it was
Me
like
too.
I was like working my way through like the Dungeons and Dragons creature feature book, all the way down to like Wyvern with the W with the creature.
Wyvern, you did Wyvern. That's right, with Nick
I wrote it.
Chinlund.
Yeah, I wrote Wyvern. Uh,
With Nick Chinlund, one of my
yeah,
favorite character actors. Yes.
yes, that was my Wyvern contact. I wrote the script, so I was in my element doing those. They took away that slot, unfortunately, and this whole industry of these fun B Roger Corman sci-fi movies took a nosedive,
Yeah.
and then I transitioned into Lifetime. And again, writing, directing these scripts, having a ball, always with, it's kind of like Sleeping with the Enemy, those type of thrillers with the strong female leads.
Right. Right.
Ultimately, I did transition out of those, and I was given the opportunity to direct a rom-com in 12 days. It was called Heartfelt with Emmanuelle Vaugier.
Oh, I
And
love her.
She's wonderful. And
He is.
also with Matt McCall. And Matt was my lead in Black Fly, which is probably the closest movie to my heart. Very dark and disturbing, based on growing up next to a serial killer. And he played that serial killer role. But I always knew he had this ability, so charismatic. I had him as my lead, and I had Emmanuelle Vaugier as, that she was a female lead. And we brought in a guy. It was his first role. Uh, uh, what's his name? Chris Russell. And Chris Russell is now like, the guy's an Adonis. He's like, beautifully built with a strong jaw. He's now a Hallmark lead. And we gave him, he was sort of like the third wheel in the script, and it worked out beautifully. And that gave me a rom-com that I could then use to get into doing a few with this company called Reel One. And then Michael Larkin. Oh, I did a movie called Termination Point with Benjamin Ayres, and he's also a Hallmark lead. And he ended up getting shot in a big shootout with Jason Priestley. But Benjamin was always impressed, and he was the one who gave my name to this Michael Larkin, who brought me on board to do my first Hallmark movie, and it was called A Christmas Tree Grows in Colorado. Crazy long title.
Well, I think that was I think it says a tree grows in Brooklyn. I think that's a play off of that. Yeah,
they did, and that was my first one in. And luckily after that, sometimes I get the opportunity to combine my love of thrillers and Hallmark. So I got in doing with Alison Sweeney, doing the Chronicle Mysteries, which I liked, because for me that's like doing a Lifetime movie. You can still have the banter and the comedic Hallmark elements, but it's still ultimately a thriller for me. I love those murder mysteries.
Oh, me too. Huge fan of that. And then I guess we'll touch a little bit about the GMC, was it GMA or the Family Channel, the one they split up.
The Great American Family.
Right. Because the one series I loved, and I was like, when I first saw it, I was like so impressed. I'm like, this is really good, and that was with the Aurora Tea Garden Mysteries.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sitting there watching that, and I was so impressed, and to me, I watched a ton of mysteries, and most of the time I can literally solve the mystery within the first 5-6 minutes.
Yep.
I can tell you there's been like 5 or 6 Hallmark movies I didn't know what was going on until they told you, until the reveal. And I just thought that's just so good writing right there. It's so good, because most of the time it's you always suspect this guy is going to be the one, it's always going to be the one, the obvious. And what I really like about it is, like someone always said, that you can always tell who the bad guy is in episode TV, because the name of the actor. The bigger the name is, the probably they're going to be the suspect. And so I saw that Hallmark, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be her, yeah. And then at the end of the movie, it's not her. There's not the obvious one. It's the one you least suspect.
Oh yeah.
And they come out there. Yeah, it's like you feel like you have to pass in your mystery machine card, because you messed up. Hi, Sin. How are you? She says she keeps on wanting to call you Jason Bourne. You know what? Honest to God, you wouldn't be wrong in doing so, because he is the Jason Bourne of film directing.
Oh, thank you.
He is. He definitely is. And oh my God. So let's before we go back there, let's do talk a little bit about sci-fi a little bit. Man, you and I, you missed that channel too, right? Me too.
Oh, totally. So close to my heart. Like looking back at the ones I was involved in, like Termination Point was one of my faves. It was had a time travel element. Lou Diamond Phillips, Jason Priestley. Had a plane, that flies into this giant wormhole. Doomsday Prophecy, where you have like that was crazy. You had like a dark star that's going to like eat the Earth, and the only thing that saves it are the Moai heads of Easter Island, which is a global defense mechanism. Back in the days of like Stonehenge Apocalypse, where Stonehenge is like a giant clock that's rotating towards disaster, and then all the storms, Polar Storm, Seattle Superstorm. Yeah, it's so many.
Did you do Seattle Superstorm?
I did. I directed that. Yeah, Seattle Superstorm. Yeah, we had the Space Needle coming down, almost squished those kids in the car trying to escape.
Okay, so I will have to admit to you, that's probably I don't know if I should do this. I think if I tell him this, that'll end it. You have to
And
promise me if I tell you this story, you can't leave
I
because
won't.
this
I won't.
happened.
I won't.
This happened
Hey,
like years ago.
I
So
put my heart and soul into those, but it's like they're like 3.5 on IMDb.
okay, yeah. So I watched that movie years ago, back when we had still a video store. You remember what a video store was?
I, I
Well,
used to I used to work in a video store. That's how
okay.
I got all my movie knowledge is all 80s movies
Oh
based
my.
on working at a video store.
So I go to Family Video. I pick up Seattle Superstorm for $1. I'm going, okay, I know it's a sci-fi movie. I know this. I know this. I go home and I watch it. And I'm going like, man,
Oh,
this is not good.
the
This is
plot was
terrible.
it was a terrible plot. It's like
Yeah.
I sunk my heart and soul into it, knowing that it's like it made no sense. It's like when I had to direct Stonados, and it's like they wouldn't let me have any blood in Stonados, and it's like I wanted to do a Sharknado, and it's like no, this has to sell in all these various territories. So they made Stonados into a family film, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the core family element always was an issue. How does this family somehow save Seattle from a giant alien superstorm? It's like it makes no sense. But
Uh,
I
but
do
no,
my best.
I watched it. And I'm going like, man, this is horrible. And I went down there. Says, man, and someone asked me, says, well, how bad could it really be? So this is years ago. This
I
is years
know.
ago. Okay,
Seattle
so I said,
superstorm.
how bad? How bad could it be? I put the case in my cat box.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like it was hard. It's funny because the fun thing about sci-fi movies is you read it and it's like, holy crud, this is like a Roland Emmerich script. Like
Yeah,
they are epically huge. Then they're like, again, the same model as a Lifetime. You got 15 days to prep it, 15 days to shoot it, sometimes even less. And at that point, we are shooting on 35 millimeter. So
yeah,
Seattle Superstorm, we shot on film.
yeah. That's
So
right. That was before digital cameras were a thing.
oh yeah, it's like, we're not shooting on cell phones. We got these big giant, 11-foot mags, with the film reels, and those things when it's on someone's shoulder, they weigh like probably 100 pounds. It's crazy with the weight and the difficulty, and but yeah, we did it. I love the fact they were all on film actually back in the day.
Yeah, I just let you know, I still have the movie. I kept the movie. So,
It's tough. My favorite disaster movie I did was Doomsday Prophecy, and I also wrote the script. And I had Jewel State was in that.
she's amazing.
Oh yeah, she was coming off of doing like Firefly. I
Right,
think as Serenity has just come out,
right.
and wonderful to work with. Had an amazing time, and I thought the script was super well done. And to be honest, like when I have control of the script, I'm a perfectionist. I'm going to make it good. But if I have to inherit Seattle Superstorm or like Stonados, man, I try to make the best Stonados movie ever, Patrick, but it's like, it's so tough.
It is, and you're right about that. You're right about the blood aspect of it. I mean, you think of some of the directors that were directing the sci-fi Saturday night movie. I mean, you had battle hardened horror vets.
Oh, yeah.
You had Fred Olin Ray, you had Jim Warnowski. I mean,
Yes.
those guys were like king of horror and skin.
Yep.
And yet here they are being told, yeah, you can't do that now. Now you got to make it all PG, and it's like, and you can just feel them. You can feel the smoke in their brain going like, how am I going to do
Oh,
that?
I
You
know.
know,
Yeah, Jim Wynorski. I mean, the guy that directed Chopping Mall is directing Hallmark, and Fred Olin Ray is directing like
yeah.
like Christmas movies, and we had to go somewhere. That's the thing. Like with that transition of sci-fi channel movies, all these directors like myself, like it was like working for Roger Corman. It's trial by fire. You learn to be crazy creative. You got to shoot fast, and again, it's very competitive. So we all transitioned to doing Christmas movies and rom coms because the market did shift. It has shifted.
How,
Uh,
how
you
did
know,
how did your job get easier with the digital? I mean, once digital cameras hit, was that just like, like a godsend to directors who had to be on a budget and on a schedule?
I have a different philosophy with it. By shooting on film, there's something precious about that. So it forces you to plan. And out of forcing you to plan, I find the directors that used to shoot on film, like myself, hey, I think a lot of us still spend a lot of time on transitions. We spend a lot of time on shot design. I find a lot of the younger directors, when it comes to shooting, they kind of just hose it down because they can. And again, it's because film was just so precious. So that's sort of my take on it. I know myself as a director now working with, with all these new formats, shooting with reds and airy minis and all this type of stuff. It does give me the opportunity just to do continuous takes. So if something's off the mark, if the focus is off, because now we're looking at big giant monitors rather than, the ultimate, focus puller, on 35 millimeters, scary because you don't know it's out of focus until, you see the dailies. Sometimes, it's different. So if the focus is off, I'm like, hey, back to number ones. Let's go again. Sometimes we don't even cut, or we do the ad libs. And I know that's a bit of an Adam Sandler thing, but sometimes, with that style of comedy, they might ramble off a few different comedic buttons, and we
I,
don't
I,
have
I
to cut.
do you feel like the digital camera allows more creative freedom to your actors? Like you mentioned before, you'll let them have a little bit of ad lib, a little bit of improv. But do you think that really made it? I think to me, it's one of the benefits of digital camera is that there is more room to move around. There's more room to groove because you
Yeah,
don't have to worry about burning up the film. Um,
totally.
yeah, so that must make your job a little easier then. You can sit there and say, yeah, if you can go ahead and you want to try that, that's go right ahead. I mean, whereas before with film, yeah, it's going to be really expensive to do. It's like, yeah, I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
really sure we can do that.
it's so expensive. Like when the film has to be developed, the film rolls were totally expensive. The best light transfers, where you go from film to video, that's a crazy expensive process. It basically adds about 60,000 to the budget with film stock and so forth. And if you don't have like a low shooting ratio, holy crud, you could break the bank. And execs get totally annoyed, obviously, because you can't keep it on budget if you just keep shooting film. So yeah, it's all good points. I found great with actors. There's not as much pressure. Amazing when you shoot kids and dogs. The fact that you can just keep shooting, especially with kids, I find totally helps. So
Right.
yeah, so I do a combination. I still love to plan. So when I go into these movies, I still have my shot list. I'm still meeting with the director of photography to work out a very unique visual style for each Hallmark movie. This last one that we did was based on a Polaroid picture. So we created moments framed within the box, so to speak, of shooting through windows or shooting through squares, things in the foreground that emulated a postcard. So anytime we had a beautiful moment that would end the act, I could do a pullback revealing that it's in a postcard type frame,
Right. Okay.
whatever's in
Yeah.
the environment. So we did that a lot. And again, I developed a style even when we were doing our holiday story, where to transition, because I had two parallel timelines, one that was 10 years ago. It's like reading a book. It's if they're like, hey Patrick, tell me about 10 years ago, I would whip pan to the left, and then I would whip pan back to the right when I'm in present day. And we
Right.
maintain this fun, very energetic transition storytelling technique.
Did you
And
ever see did you ever see a TV show called Person of Interest?
yes, yeah. That had great transitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's all of those, by the way, those decisions have to be made in prep. And I think the more that I can design a show so it stands out, and the audience, whether they're film savvy or not, kind of feel it. They know when things are planned out and extra care goes into it, obviously. So that's my technique. I go big on prep, and I always think of what can we do to make this stand out and be different.
Now, is your DP, is he like I mean, he goes with you on every project you do, right? I mean, you have a regular DP that have DP will film.
You know, it's funny. All the DPs are different because they all get other jobs. So I can't maintain the same DOP. But the last one I did, the DOPs were actually twins, identical twins, which is kind of fun. Graham and Nelson. You can't tell these guys apart. They take time behind the monitor if one of them's shooting like a cam. And I had them on my Hallmark movie, and before that, as a producer, I had them on 2 indie features. And before that, I brought them on Drone, that political
Yeah,
action thriller I did with Sean Bean that we shot partially in India. So I
I
do
haven't
have
seen
those,
that one.
with those relationships. I always love to come back to those people that I know deliver. They're super talented and they're just a joy to be around. So I like to use the same DOP as much as I can. But like I said, sometimes the schedules won't allow it.
Now, one of the really fun things that you get, and I think because I'm sure there's like a playlist, right? Like for every Hallmark movie, like there's a playlist, like there's no more than 2 to 4 kisses every movie. It's like it's a Hallmark kiss. It's a Hallmark kiss. Okay, you wait for the one, then maybe you get 2 or 3 toward the end, and they're really small smooches. Okay, so you get that. Now, one of the things is, do you get to handle? Do you have to do product placement on your films as well? Because I see some Hallmark movies they have product placement.
Oh yeah.
Do you have to deal with that as well? Do you have an option? How do how
It's
do you how do you shoot product placement when you
well,
know it's product placement?
I mean, some of that, if it comes up, it's usually a conversation that I have with my executive producer who's on set. So we have had Hallmark bring on board different Christmas decorations, and we incorporate that into it. The production designer works with clearances, or whomever, when that stuff kind of gets sent to us from Hallmark. Wrapping paper is a big thing.
Yeah.
We have Hallmark wrapping paper on presents.
And soap opera boxes too.
Yeah, it's funny. I think they even have like their own. I think Hallmark has their own wine now as well.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like their own special. Yeah, so we've had Hallmark wine before with it. We incorporate into it, but I think the keys, it's always subtle. I think Hallmark as a brand, it's again, we're delivering this big hug. It's all about the acting and performance. So whatever is being utilized with that is usually, again, it's quite subtle, which I'm happy. It's not like we're holding up a Nike sneaker or
No.
anything like that, like the like Wayne's World.
Right, right. Now you do have one thing going strength for you, and I think this is probably the greatest strength, or if this or is it more of a collaboration, so to speak. But you mentioned before that you get to do a lot of your own casting. A lot
Mhm.
of directors don't get to do that, especially with a movie you think would turn around so fast. But you
Yeah.
do have a tremendous input on who you want in your films. Um, does Hallmark care about actors who, like, they're always looking for the wholesome actor?
Yes.
I remember reading about there's one actor there, he's called the bad boy, because he
Tyler
can
Haynes.
yeah, he's like I guess he's like a NASCAR guy, he's a little rugged, he smokes, he's not afraid to do that. He's a little different than
Oh, maybe
the
not
average,
Tyler.
maybe the clear cut, maybe the clean cut guy. Um, uh, uh, how do you get to pick I mean, as far as that goes, but Hallmark has, they always have the people they have cast
Yeah.
always seem to be the most clean cut people. Do they ever worry about an actor's past, about some of the movies that they starred in? Maybe because I mean, I know that there's a lot of horror actors, and I
Mhm.
told this to people here in my chat. I said, you guys making fun of Hallmark, but let me tell you, there's a lot of horror pedigree in those movies, especially today. There's a lot of actors that have done a lot of horror there, haven't there?
You know the history of it. It's not to go off topic too much, but I did these movies with Sarah Butler, and we did Lifetime movies. I did a whole bunch with Sarah Butler. Her history,
Yeah,
she did the remake of I Spit on Your Grave.
it's right. That's
Yeah,
right. No,
and yeah, so awesome to work with. So Lifetime, I think even more so, doesn't have any real issues with like the hardcore horror women of horror that transition into Lifetime movies. I see that quite often. I think working on this stuff with Hallmark, Taylor Cole, who was in my last one, um, she comes out of like doing I think a lot of sci-fi thriller series and has transitioned into like full-on Hallmark movies. So there's a few. I mean, again, I think the main thing is they're all working actors.
Right.
They all love to do things sometimes outside the box. But I do feel that once they become part of the Hallmark family, I think they do become a little more hyper aware of reputations. Um,
Now, who becomes more aware, the
um,
suits or the actors themselves? Like,
I think
like
combo. Yeah,
wow,
like I find when someone gets into the Hallmark family, it's you get so many fans. Like it's like my Black Fly. My Black Fly on IMDb, it's like 500. Like people that have seen it or like it. When I have like a premiere on a Hallmark movie, I can have like 2 million people
yeah,
that are just like watching it in one night. So it's interesting. I I think they all have to be aware somewhat, maybe a little bit more of what they choose. A little bit, I think, because sometimes the Hallmark can keep these people very busy. And
yes,
like a Nikki DeLoach, who is amazing, I don't think she needs to transition out of Hallmark because she's so incredibly good at her job, and she gets it, and she's part of that Hallmark family, and she works consistently. Barbara Niven's the same. Like
I was actually thinking of Barbara too, because Barbara
oh,
has done some really incredible work in in her career,
she
and
has.
some of it has with like I just think of some of those people who know her as a Hallmark actress. I think they would be rather surprised by some of the films that she's done in the
Hey,
past.
she's played Marilyn Monroe. I mean, it's if you look back at her history and what she's done. So, but yeah, I feel like when they're in doing Hallmark movies, they're all in. I guess is what I'm saying. But you're right. Sometimes if you look them up, even someone like Andrew Walker, looking back, I think he played a drug addicted, police officer back in the day. If you look at their early movies with what got them started, and but again, it's they're fully embracing Hallmark, and they have no need to now be outside of that family because Hallmark can keep these actors at that level so busy. Brennan Elliott, who I worked with, by the way.
I
Um,
love Brennan.
yeah, he's great. Do you know that he did like a buddy vampire cop movie?
Yeah,
Uh,
he's
yeah,
been a bad guy. He's been a bad guy in several movies. I've seen him as a bad guy in several movies.
yes,
One of my favorites though, Hallmark, Victor Webster.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Victor
yeah.
Webster. If you see him, ask him how Brendan Mulvey is doing. Did you ever watch Mutant X?
Yes, of course. Yeah, he was great in that.
Awesome in that.
Yes,
Awesome in that. Yeah, I love Victor. I love to talk to him. That's when I'm like, man. But some of the Hallmark. That's one thing about Hallmark too, and to its credit, they
yes.
do guard their image. I mean, and they pump you up too. They pump up the directors are just as big as the stars as the actors are. I
Aw.
mean, I've seen so many different stories about so many different directors that normally you don't really hear about the directors at Lifetime or Hallmark or Sci-Fi,
Mhm.
but with now it's like now you do. Now you're part of the fabric. You're like, now we got celebrated screenwriter and director. Jason Mork will be directing our new project. That's gotta be sort of new for
Love it.
you, right?
It's a very good point. Like with Lifetime, I never got any shout outs like that. Hallmark is very supportive. I've been working a lot with this one exec at Hallmark, Angela Polk, and she does more of the movies and mysteries. Which it's funny how you have the Hallmark channel, you got the movies and mysteries channel, and again, movies and mysteries, the Christmas movies, some people think have a little bit more heart, a little bit more emotion. And she's been fantastic with bringing me on board these projects. A World Record Christmas is one of my faves, and wow, she did an incredible job on that. That's the one where I literally it's a true story based on a kid up in Salmon Arm in British Columbia, autistic on the spectrum. His superpower is that he's wonderful at concentrating like a hawk. I don't know if you saw this one, but he took the true story is this kid took like one Jenga block and built 1,600 Jenga blocks on top of it, balanced on one single block. And he broke the Guinness World Record. And Angela got behind it, and we made a movie on this.
Wow.
Very different for Hallmark. And it won what's called the Christopher Award, which is the highest level of celebrating the human spirit in media, which for me was just wonderful getting this award last year. Actually, no, this year I yeah, we got it. So it's
Congratulations.
oh, thank you. Yeah, it felt good. It was a good year. That one went through the roof and connected with so many people. And then another one I did based on it sounds like a bit of a niche. It was on board games, and it was called Game of Love, and I won the Leo Award, which is the big award out here on the West Coast, for best director. And again, it was a Hallmark movie, but I just used every trick in the book that I learned from doing those Sci-Fi Channel movies. And yeah, we just made something that was so much fun about it's about the board game industry. And it's
That's cool as
every
hell.
trick in the book went into that one. And again, it won me a Leo, so I was through the roof happy about that.
Now, there's one thing. There's one thing. Good thing about this. I want to get your opinion about this as well. But about year and a half ago, there was a fallout between GFA. The former CEO of Hallmark
Yep.
left.
Well, Elliot.
Yeah, but the controversy over they just want to do vanilla. They want to
Mhm.
do straight white people, and they don't want to do diversity. Hallmark says, not everybody is all going to be all white and straight. It's going to be watching our movies. People from all over this walk of life love Hallmark movies, and so when
Mhm.
they decided to embrace that, um, how does were you aware of that? Was this before you entered Hallmark's world or afterwards? And what has been some of the biggest changes that you've noticed? Like as far as the diversity go, as that goes, has that been really refreshing now, knowing that you could be doing a Hanukkah movie, you could be doing a gay couple story, you could be doing anything that GFA is not anymore.
Yes.
Does that help create your creative juice as far as screenwriting? When you're writing your screenplays and then taking them to on and as far as directing, has that made it more enlightening, more exciting for you?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm all about diversity, and I'm all about unique storytelling voices, especially if there's something kind of cultural, and it takes it out of the norm somewhat. So I think there's a lot of stories to be told. So for me, one of the first Hallmark movies I did was when that exactly went down, when Bill Elliott ended up leaving Hallmark. And I was brought on board to do, I mentioned the A Christmas Tree Grows in Colorado, and I had two black leads and a gay Jewish fireman. So it's like it was, it was fantastic. It was fun. And it was wonderful to see. And I do feel that before that, Bill Elliott, the mandate, it was subtle, but yeah, you didn't see a heck of a lot of like background extras. You didn't see the holding hands. You didn't see same sex couples. It was very straight up. It's like you're watching Leave It to Beaver.
Yes,
And I think the evolution of Hallmark, I think, was needed. And I think Hallmark's in a great place right now.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think they thought the GFA. I think they thought they were going to steamroll once they separated. I really do. And then he went back to the old studio type of deal where they're signing people to exclusive deals like in the
Yeah.
40s and 50s. I think they really thought they had you guys on the ropes, but
Mhm.
that's not true.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I think Hallmark consistently has beats out Great American Family. It's also based on the leads that Hallmark holds on to in combination with the storytelling, in combination sometimes with the budget. And having writers that are veteran writers and paying those veteran writers within the Hallmark family, sometimes compared to Great American Family. I think Great American Family has changed somewhat.
mhm.
You do see diversity with Great American Family. Again, there are things that they do that I don't agree with. especially when it comes to how outspoken they are sometimes against, say, like LGBTQ and so forth.
Agreed.
Having those
Agreed.
same-sex couples, we know we'll never see a same-sex couple movie at Great American Family, and that's not the audience that they're going for. But it's yeah, Hallmark continues to do extremely well in the ratings. My God, you know, everyone's going to streamers except that Hallmark base. You know, I think the only thing that beats it out are like sports. You
Yeah,
know, when
you're
you have
right. They are incredibly loyal. Sometimes I'll just go by a group or something, like I'll go by a group just to see what what they're talking about. Like who they're talking about, which actors they're talking about, and they'll talk about certain ones, and there's some that they love their actors, they love that culture of
yes,
Hallmark. There you got some that will sit there and say, "Well, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to watch GFA." And to me, I always sit there and go, like, I'm sort of glad you stuck your hand up and said that because now we see you. We
yeah,
see, we see. You can't be that narrow-minded. I mean, I just couldn't understand it. I just couldn't understand how that. I just thought, wow, this is really cool.
mhm,
I really enjoyed this. I enjoy the fact that they're doing all this, and who cares? Who cares?
yeah.
Because those people exist in our real world, right? I mean, what do you expect everybody to go through and not have a same sex couple? You don't know any of your friends that are? Um,
Yeah,
it just
they've done Hallmark's done a wonderful job of again the evolution of Hallmark. I think as we talked about, yeah, definitely in a very good place. Yeah, a lot of mixed couples, LGBTQ. It's all been fully embraced, and I do feel like even there's one that came out. Hanukkah on Rye was a fun one. Did quite well. There's another one that came out, Christmas with the Sings, I think, which has a lot
okay,
of
yeah,
fun
yeah,
cultural crossfire working. Like I think it's a mixed couple and working in the Indian culture as well, which I thought
yeah.
came out I think last week. Um,
I'm sure
yeah,
that'll do very well.
yeah. So and I do think they're all doing well in the ratings every time one of those comes out. It's incredible how many movies they make. I think is like 40 originals or 50 originals, I think, this
Oh
Christmas.
my gosh. Yeah. I mean, they're making them all year round.
Oh,
It's a,
it's
it's a, it's a,
crazy.
it's a,
I was
it's a
lucky enough to do 3 of them this year. So that for me was fantastic. They're all kind of back to back. Each one was a different script and each one had its own challenges as well. But I was lucky enough to work with like 3 amazing women as my leads in each one of them and had a blast. It's not
well,
work for me, Patrick. I
you
just
get to
love it
pick
too much.
but you do get to pick your cast, right? I mean, that
You
is
know,
within your control. You can sit there and say, well, I mean, how do they decide? Because there's some actresses and actors that I've seen that have been great, the great secondary leads, they're
yes.
great. But to me, I'm like, man, I really like to see them be a lead
You
because
know, it's funny.
I like to see them get the 4 kisses at the end of the movie.
So so I'm gonna pull the cat out of the bag. So with the casting, the way it works is, so I'm told who the leads are. That at the producer level, they're the ones that make the call with the Nikki DeLoaches and so forth. Lucky enough, there are some of those that I love working with. They know that I'm attached. I've worked with them before, and that helps smooth out the process. At that level of working with cast, you're dealing with managers and agents and producers, and the producers also then deal with Hallmark, and Hallmark has the ultimate say as to who those leads are. I come on board with the supporting and all the other roles. I do my casting. I usually give my top 4 picks, 5 picks. Producers also lean in, so it's very much a collaboration with the lead producers. And then it goes to Hallmark, and Hallmark signs off on those. So I always have my wish list per se, and then we see who comes out of that. But like I said, for the most part, there's certain actors I just love working with that are
Mhm.
local. They're in the Vancouver scene. It's always a pleasure having them on set because their energy is so freaking good.
Yeah,
And I do like bringing them back. Some of them are just so incredibly good.
I bet.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your. I wanted to try to get a couple of minutes on your next 2 films that you got coming
Yes.
up. in the middle of scouting. Are you location scouting
Well,
right now, or are you ready to?
I'm always developing. Funny enough, they're mostly like, and I write, they're mostly thrillers, horror films, working on those. But I just wrapped a big one called Night Comes, and I co-wrote the script. Also, I was the executive producer working with an amazing team, and it was actually directed by Jay Hernandez.
Oh,
And
yes,
Jay, his background, he was in the original Cabin Fever. He was Diablo off of Suicide Squad,
yeah,
mostly well known for being the new Magnum PI.
right. That's
So,
right. Did a
yeah,
great job too.
yeah, he's awesome. So he directed it. It was his first movie, apocalyptic horror film about these two Latina sisters that have to survive the night, sleeping in this big fortified box because these creatures have called screechers have basically come out of the ground en masse like a swarm, and they come out every few thousand years and they wipe out humanity. Um, and we had Daphne Keene, who we all know from like Logan is when I first noticed Daphne. She was the feral kid with the claws.
That's right. X-23.
Yes, and yeah, totally. And she also was off of. I'm the only person in the world who hasn't seen the new Deadpool Wolverine movie,
No,
but
no,
I
I
guess.
haven't either. I haven't
Oh, you
either.
haven't, eh? Uh,
No.
yeah, I guess she has a cameo. Daphne has a cameo in that, and she's also off the Acolyte.
Oh
One of
gosh, yeah, yeah. That's an
the,
interesting question to ask you too. I mean, but I want to talk a little bit about colonizer, because
Oh yeah, I'm working on. I usually have that and Jawbone are the two other horror scripts, and Snowblind. Those are the three horror scripts that I've been pushing. Um,
well, you got casting done for colonizer, so that means have you slid into pre-production now that you got the leads?
Not yet. I'm a big fan of like I love Lovecraft. I love H.G. Wells, all that old type stuff. I always kind of lean back towards that one. Yeah, that one's kind of like based on like the Color from Outer Space, bit of a spin on it, Colonizer. But yeah, usually what I have to do, I got to package it. I got to get cast attached, and once I have the cast, then I have to look for the money. And it's always that cart before the horse. Like, how do you get cast attached when you don't have the money, but you need the money? You know, for the investors, they want to know who's going to be in the movie.
Is it
So
easier, is it easier for you to get the money if it's a solely all Canadian cast versus one that's multinational? Which one's easier to do?
you
Because
know,
Tim Tilt's is Canadian.
yeah, it's interesting. I find that the market still likes American leads. You know, we got some good ones in Canada,
You do.
but at the budget level we're talking about, like the horror market, it's interesting. Like Tubi, for example, is doing these $1 million, $2 million budgets. The mid-range ones don't happen all that often. Something like Smile 2, they're still probably spending 20 million on it. I just saw Abigail. Have you seen Abigail?
No, no,
Oh,
I heard it was
check it
good.
out. It's on Amazon. Kevin Durand, who's Canadian, is in it and kicks ass. They spent 20 million on that. But the movies that I grew up on, you know, the 2 to 3, 4, 5 million, you know, like the Chopping Mall, Jim Wynorski type DVD movies, they don't get made as much. But that's the budget range I would like to be working in with these. Two
Yeah,
to 3 million, I think I can knock it out of the ballpark. Like Terrifier, Terrifier 3, I think is maybe 2 to 3 million the budget.
right, right. I mean, there's been some really movies that have they've just gone in there for next. There's some movies like Skinamarink that
Yes.
came out there on there. I mean, for one thing, let me be honest with you, Jason. Man, I've interviewed a lot of Canadian talent on this show, and I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. I mean, you have some incredible gifted actors up there. Um, there's one actress I'm not sure if you've ever heard of, but I'm going to say her name. I normally don't do this, but I'm going to. And if you haven't heard of her, you will, because I'm going to send you her information.
Okay,
But
cool.
her name is Elizabeth Chamberlain.
I don't think I know her.
Oh, you will now. Oh, I was hoping you say that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna send you I'm gonna send her. I'm gonna send her her IMDb page. I'll send her the little movie that she made. She made this movie called "I'm Haunted"
Yep.
for Brendan Rhines, his higher universe banner.
Yep.
Did you ever see a movie? You ever see a movie called Lock? with Tom Hardy?
Yes, in the car.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Elizabeth does the same thing with I'm Haunted. For like she carries the movie for like 90% of the time with
Oh
by
wow.
herself.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about when I talk about skilled, because that's my favorite Tom Hardy movie by far.
Hmm.
Tom Hardy was freaking amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
I was
Great
riveted.
choice.
That movie was so damn exciting, and here he is, all he's doing is just driving that car.
Yeah.
But it was so damn exciting. It was really cool.
I love
And
those contained thrillers. I'm a big fan of It'll Never Get Made Ever Again, Phone Booth with Colin Farrell.
God, that
Uh,
was a great movie.
Great movie. Larry Cohen wrote that thing. Larry Cohen from like Q and It's Alive and all those fun, the Return to Salem's Lot and stuff, the stuff.
The
So,
stuff.
yeah, great B movie writer director, and he sold the script off. But yeah, those contained thrillers, horror thrillers. I'm always looking for those.
Um, is that what you do? I mean, without getting into specifics, or of course, but do
Huh?
you do that? Do you take like Hallmark's your day job, but you're going to use that money to make your passion? I mean, what's more passionate to you right now? Is it okay? I'm doing the Hallmark movies. I'm getting paid for that, but then I'm taking that movie. I'm going to go make something like Colonizer.
It's if it's a great story, it doesn't matter as much to me because I put the same amount of love into our holiday story as I put into like Seattle Superstorm. So even though I'm
I have a feeling I'm going to be hearing about this for a little while from now on. I'm going to be hearing this. Like, have you
yeah,
rewatched? Patrick? Have you rewatched it yet? No, Jason, but I have it on my list.
it's fun because for me, there's very few that I've directed. I don't think there's any. Like again, because it's playtime for me. I'm always been a storyteller. It's literally what I am. Um, it never feels like I'm just there to collect a paycheck. And if I felt that way, I think I got to get something else going on. I truly feel that. So for me, it's always the same. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I do have this itch to do like a thriller because
Hmm.
lately I've been loving working in this Hallmark Christmas realm. I do miss doing the Hallmark thrillers, and I hope someone gives me the opportunity to transition back into the mystery wheels, to do a straight up horror film. I've been writing the scripts for it, and yes, of course, I'd love to do one of those as well and cut loose. So I think that's going to happen. I'm not in any rush, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Do you get to call that? I mean, and can you negotiate that? I mean, when you sit down and they want you to do a Hallmark, Christmas movie, can you negotiate that, saying, hey, if this movie hits this amount of target audience, or does this much revenue, then can I do a Hallmark movie? Because if you say yes on that, I want you to go back and bring back Martha's Vineyard Mysteries with Jesse Bradford or Jesse Metcalf. I
Oh
would
yeah,
love
yeah.
to. Can you do that? I mean, can you sit there and say, hey, if I scratch your back here, can you scratch mine over here?
Wow.
Or is that how can it work that way?
It's funny. The truth of it is when I get the call from my agent and it's a production company that loves my work and they're like, "Hey, listen, we got a Hallmark movie. Do you want to do one?" I don't even read the script, and none of the directors do. It's like working on a TV series. When
Right.
a Hallmark exec, who's behind your career says, "Hey, I got one for you." I'm like, "Yes, send me the script. We'll work out what that's going to be." And it's relationships first, with Hallmark movies because I know they're going to be decent scripts, and I know I can work within that if things need to be tweaked. Um, and Hallmark again doesn't have any real link to the horror movies that I love to. I've always loved that genre and the thrillers. So yeah, it's interesting. So from that end, Hallmark, I'm all in when I get those calls.
Yeah. Uh, they give you breaks though, right? I mean, they rotate. Like I know sometimes they rotate different directors in for a little bit, and they'll rotate out. Like I mean, is
I
that
think
just to keep
I
it keep it fresh, keep yourself fresh?
I think so. I think with Hallmark, I do truly feel you're only as good as your last Hallmark movie. So I think that could change very quickly. and I am very hyper aware of that it's like I'm blessed to be doing these movies and having these opportunities, and I never take that for granted. So I know that I have a lot of competition. I'm going up against so many other
No kidding.
directors.
And the other thing is like the competition is strong. It's not just they're not hacks.
No,
They're
they're
strong directors over at
oh,
Hallmark. Damn,
yeah, they
yeah,
they they got so much talent. I find if anything, it's hard for these younger directors to break in because they're going up against very seasoned veterans. And as you and I talked about at the beginning of this, it's a lot harder than what people think, especially
very.
within the timeline, and especially because what hasn't changed is that the scripts themselves, some of them have just so much scope. It's like, again, like we talk about July, August, September having to shoot these. I read one called Miss Christmas Comes to Town. I had agreed to do it. I got the script. Brennan Elliott got the script as well, and Erica Durance. And the first time I talked to them, they're like, Jason, I'm so excited. I heard all these great things about you. It's awesome. And it's like, that script, how the hell are we going to pull that off? It's a tour bus driving through a winter wonderland, hitting 6 night markets in all these different towns, and we had to shoot it in July. It's like, how can that possibly be done? And we did it. We pulled it off, and I think it's a really I'm totally proud of the movie, and Barbara Niven's in that one. But it's like it kind of
I think
blew our
Is Barbara your good luck charm?
I love her. You know what? I've been lucky enough that I would say the majority of I would say all the female leads I work with, they're all like huge hearts, wonderful people, and some of them are actually quite spiritual. And she's truly she embodied Miss Christmas. Like, just waves of goodness came off of that woman.
I
Barbara
got
Niven,
my two the two older ladies that do the Hallmark movies
mhm.
is Barbara Niven and
Yeah.
Beth Broderick.
Yes. Yeah, they're wonderful.
I think Beth. I think she's a real witch because she has not aged at all since Sabrina at all. I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there going, I thought you look the same. She looks the same the first time I saw her and Zelda. I'm like, you know what? Her and that Salem, they must have been doing something, conjuring up because she looks amazing.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's Barbara Niven's the same. She hasn't aged. Uh,
no,
but again, very giving, very very supportive, and like I said, I've been lucky enough that working with these people, they're all there for all the right reasons, I find. And like I said, it's like, how can we give the audience the biggest hug?
agreed. Let me take a look here. I want to make sure I am staying within my time period. And we have hit our time. We have hit it dead on. Um, Thank you, Jason. I have so much more, but I'm going to save it because if I use it all up now, then I won't be able to use it later on.
Have you
That's not necessarily true, but I definitely going to have you come back, and it was
nice?
definitely worth the wait. Had so much fun with you tonight and talking to you, and thank you so much. It's a real shame that normally I don't do normally I don't do a lot of Hallmark. I mean, I do some, but I don't have that base. I don't have the fan base for it. But I'm going to share this out some more because I think people will be very surprised if they're Hallmark fans. They're going to be very surprised about our conversation. I think they're going to really enjoy it. It kills me because it's like when I see these movies come out there and I see people in the groups, they're always talking about the actors and whatnot. And so, you go ahead and you put out a note saying, hey, I'm going to be talking to a director. I'm going to be talking to a director. It always blows my mind is when I don't get much of a response to it because I'm curious. I'm
Mhm.
not just happy with looking at the yellow brick road. I want to see what's underneath it.
Yes.
And to me, I mean, it's a chance to come out and listen to a director like on your caliber, man, what an opportunity, to hear how it really works. And so I want to thank you for sharing that. And
Oh, thanks, Patrick.
in return for this, I'm going to rewatch a Seattle Superstorm with my Cheetah. I'm going to rewatch it, which really was really interesting. It's like he had Isai Morales on there, And then next
Yes,
thing you know, he saw Isai doing Mission Impossible.
he went huge.
Yeah. And I think it was probably because of Seattle Superstorm, and I just missed it.
Oh, quick note. I did a movie, wrote the script. It was called Viking Quest. Crazy low budget Viking movie, and it was the first movie starring that Taylor and Joy.
Oh, from The Witch.
Furiosa.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, you gave her your first shot?
Hey, I build careers. Eastside, Taylor, like it's.
I love The Witch. I loved her in The Witch. I personally feel honest. I mean, you've seen her. Let me. Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you that off camera. I do have a question for you. I'm gonna ask you that off camera though. I don't want to do that. Thank you so much for guys coming in and watching our wonderful show with director Jason Bourque. He has. You go and look at his IMDb page, which is down below, and go check out all the work that he's done. I'm sure there's something that Jason has either written or directed or both that you have seen and you have loved. And I want to thank you for coming out again, hanging out with us. It's a lot of fun. I want to do this again sometime soon. Maybe when you get your next Hallmark movie. And maybe we'll do like a quick. Maybe we'll do just a quick behind the scenes type of hey, Jason, what are you doing? Filming. If you have the time, something like that. We'll work out something. You come by and give us a little update or something. But I definitely have enjoyed this. This is a great show. And thank you for making it great. And thank you to the chat for coming out and hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate your support. I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you again, Tom, and Cheryl, and Betty J, and Bones, and Jim, and Joe. Thanks so much. We will be back on Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Sunday night, 8 o'clock, right here on this channel as the IFC Midnights. We are going to be talking about A Perfect Day, starring Benicio del Toro, Tim Robbins, and Olega Kurlenko. Now I try to get her in one of those movies. She's amazing. All right. Stay right where you're at, Jason, and to everybody else, I'm going to say goodnight to you, and we'll see you next week or Sunday. Peace.
See ya. Thank you. That was fun.
It was fun. Thank you so much. This was worth the wait. I was really hoping I would. I was actually.